XTERRA family. Evan Pardi here, professional classical musician and elite triathlete. Today I'm going to talk about nerves and performance anxiety. This is the worst. Everybody gets it. It's completely relatable, and it's something I've been dealing with for most of my life as a professional classical musician and as a triathlete. Nerves manifest themselves in very different ways for everybody. I personally now have the problem where when I get nervous, I have to pump myself up. Many people feel butterflies in their stomach or their limbs shaking and a much more aggressive nervousness. Mine manifests in a more inability to get excited necessarily in my actual physical self. The key to being able to conquer your nerves is to know what type of nervousness you have. Are you sort of a internally nervous, externally calm person, or are you just a very physically nervous person and maybe your mind is relatively okay and knows what's going on? Addressing what specific types of nerves you have is the first step. Once you're aware of what kind of nerves that you're feeling specifically, the best thing to do is go about addressing them individually. So for me, I have to kind of deliberately pump myself up and get zoned into the moment. This is an idea called just micro-focusing. And to do this, you might really fixate on one thing in your transition area or getting ready for the swim, focusing on exactly how your hand is going to feel in the water. Any of those imagery ideas will help you zone in on what you want to feel. As long as you know what you're feeling, you're going to be able to conquer your nervousness. There's a few theories about how to go about performance anxiety and get through something even if you have a lot of anxiety. The first one that I heard a lot of in classical music performance is the Superman idea, where you go in and say, I can conquer anything, no matter what. There is no errors, there is no wrong, you just power right through. I know a lot of people who use this very successfully in their own recitals or solo performances because when you're in this idea and this mindset, there's no wrong. Many people find this comforting because in the moment of performance, there's nothing else, it's just performance. Personally, I use a mindset that I call the one more step pattern. This is also very common in music performance and works for triathlon. In this way, you just think about the immediate next step as a way to conquer your nerves and anxiety. So in the swim, just think about getting to the next buoy. Get to the next buoy after that. Get to the next buoy after that, and then you're done with the swim. Get your bike. Okay, now I just gotta ride the miles to the trails. Okay, now I gotta get through these corners and then this corner. In music, it's the same sort of thing. I sit down, I'm about to play Bach or something, and instead of thinking about the whole hour-long recital I have to play, I just think about, okay, I just have to play this first little piece. Break down your performance into small, bite-sized pieces and just think about those. And when they're completed, don't think about the whole long task, just think about the next tiny little part. One more step at a time. The last concept for performance anxiety is the idea of a river or flow. This was described to me by an old bass teacher of mine, and it really made a lot of sense for me then, and it still does. When we have a lot of anxiety in our performance, think about that just flowing down through us. Every action that happens and then goes away. Happens and then goes away. This helps us, one, negate any of that training mindset problems where we think about the past or relive our errors, and two, this allows us to sort of keep that one step ahead approach and the Superman approach in kind of the same idea. We're just still happening, bam, and it goes through us and keeps us flowing. In racing tri, I think about this a lot in terms of the bike especially. Just building on a flow state, building on each corner. Keep going through things. If there's an error, it's just happened. It was in the past. Same thing for music. We really try to keep every measure going and everything connected to something else. And the river flow doesn't allow us to think about the whole big picture as something to panic about. Instead, nice bite-sized pieces to keep moving through. Finally, one last note about nerves and performance anxiety. It happens to everybody, and it's really hard to understand until you've done something a fair bit. So the nerves you have at your first triathlon are going to be different than the nerves you have at your 100th triathlon, but they're still there, and that's okay. even the greatest musicians I've ever heard of or met, like Isak Perlman, they say after thousands and thousands of performances, every time they walk on stage they get nervous. And that's good. As long as you're aware of those nerves and can channel that into these thought processes, then you're going to be able to conquer whatever you have to do. Thank you for watching my videos on the mental side of racing XTERRA. I hope you've learned something about the mental side of racing and performance in general, and how to separate those mindsets out from your training mindset. Thank you so much.